In the 1700s, all wars and battles were the same. The infantries would line up across from each other in an open field and fire back and forth until one army had surrendered, retreated, or was dead. But all this was changed when a man by the name of Napoleon Bonaparte came along. His goal was to control all of Europe. In 1804, he crowned himself as the Emperor of France and now had all ruling powers over the country. France had one of the biggest armies in the world. It consisted of over 500,000 soldiers and was the biggest army anyone had ever seen. Napoleon knew that his brute force would not be enough to take over all of Europe, and that he would need to use his own special strategies and tactics of war in order to run an empire. Before Bonaparte, the armies would charge in a diamond-like formation and then break apart into smaller groups and attack, but they were only attacking from one side. Napoleon's idea was to attack with what they thought was the main army and then come from all sides and behind them with the majority of his military to completely obliterate them. This is called modern warfare. Napoleon was also one of the first people to focus on military intelligence. He would find out as much about the opposing army as possible before he attacked. This gave him an advantage over the other countries. His research included reading hundreds of books on war strategies and having spies in other countries to inform him of his challengers' attack methods and styles so that he could plan his invasion to give France the greatest chance of victory. Before Napoleon, all battles and wars would go exactly as they had planned beforehand, but Napoleon was one of the few that was able to think on his feet and change plans at any given moment. When Napoleon invaded Austria, his army was crossing a river when one of his men informed him that the Austrian army was not where they had expected and was actually following them. So instead of just turning around and attacking them head-on, Napoleon sent some of his troops around the back of Austria's army and pinned them down so they could not escape. Light infantry was another one of Napoleon's specialties. Instead of having his entire army invade at once, he would send a smaller group in, usually around 20,000 men, and have them begin the attack and separate the opposing country's troops. During this time, Bonaparte would be sending in his heavy artillery like cannons and mortars, surrounding the other country's army with his other 150,000 men or more, and then attack from the outside in towards the middle, so there was no escape for the enemy. When France attacked Russia, Bonaparte sent his light infantry into the middle of Russia's massive army to split them into smaller sections. Then he brought in his heavy artillery to completely destroy them. Napoleon's strategies influenced modern warfare greatly. During wars today, intelligence is one of the most important factors in surviving. In the United States, the Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA for short, helps us understand how to attack or infiltrate another country and stay safe at the same time. In Afghanistan and Iraq, our light infantry is very important to survival. We send in a small group of men with light machine guns to secure an area before we haul in our vehicles and tanks with all of the supplies. Napoleon's art of surprise was used in the Korean War when North Korea suddenly invaded South Korea and took over much of the country. The United States and South Korea did not even have a plan in place on how to defend the country because this attack was so completely unexpected. The influences of Napoleon Bonaparte and his army have changed the way that wars are fought and prepared for. His ideas have affected the entire world dramatically and will continue to change war forever.
Took a little walk, ran into Korea, and had a little talk, We pushed them, we shoved them, we threw them in the river, and laughed as they drowned, We don't need no commies, hanging around, Hey, don't be a fool, hey.